And it is 25 to 1. Well, there's no doubt that the elderly are vulnerable in Australia, as we've been saying, and not unusual for them to be targeted by scammers and thieves. But really, we expect family members to help look out for them. Shockingly, sometimes it's their children and grandchildren who are doing the stealing. And according to new research, Australians are ripping off their elderly relatives at a greater rate than ever. Some legal experts say that the power of attorney is being granted without due diligence and is becoming a license to steal. So why do some people think it's okay to steal from their elderly relatives? And how can we stop this from happening? Kristy Mackie is from the KRM Legal, and she's a chairwoman of the Queensland Law Society's Elderly Law Committee, or Elder Law Committee, and on the line right now. Thanks for your time, Kristy.
Thanks, Warren. Thanks for having me.
Well, yeah, I think this is important we talk about this because it seems to be, at the moment, there's a lot of talk about what goes on in the home, domestic violence and those sorts of things, and yet this is another issue to do with inter-family problems that really hasn't got much attention, has it?
No, it hasn't, and that's why I'm grateful to be able to talk on your program today. Really what needs to be understood is that domestic violence doesn't stop when you get to 65. It changes, and perhaps just to enlighten you a little bit, it changes from physical to financial and psychological, but it's still a form of violence and it's still a form of domestic violence. And I know in Queensland and Victoria economic abuse is protected under the various legislations in domestic violence. So you can get an order in court to prevent further domestic violence when you're being financially abused.
Now, the power of attorney obviously is the tool that's often used, I presume?
Yeah, that's probably number one in the matters that I deal with, is the misuse of the powers of attorney. Our Elder Abuse Prevention Unit up in Queensland reported last year something in the vicinity of $56 million misused and misappropriated, and that was only from 163 cases. So they have expanded that to even thinking it's in the hundreds of millions, if not the billions, if you go into Australia-wide.
So I know you only can talk about Queensland in this perspective, but is it possible for a power of attorney to be revoked because it's not being used properly?
Absolutely, and that's the thing that I try and encourage during seminars and awareness education sessions. That you can revoke it. You have the power to revoke it. It's not an end, the last thing that you do, and you can never change it. The problem is with the ageing population is that your capacity is somewhat affected, and if you don't have full capacity, then you're unable to revoke that document. But there are many avenues that you can take. You can go to the respective guardianship tribunals and they can revoke it. But I think the most important thing is some legislation changes. Victoria recently enacted a change to their Powers of Attorney Act, making it a criminal offence with up to 5 years imprisonment for misusing a power of attorney. Yeah,
well, I think that's probably a good idea for that to be across the board. What about if somebody else notices, that this is happening? So let's presume, for example, that the person, the elderly person, is either incapable or unwilling to change a power of attorney, even though they're being ripped off. What sort of avenue would there be open to, say, another family member or a friend to take action?
This is the real problem, in that there is no legislation protecting vulnerable older people. So you can go and report it to a lawyer. We find a lot of that, or my referrals come from GPs. People refer they tell everything to their GP, and then the GP rings me and says, I think you need to talk to this person. So it's a real collaborative effort. There are some government-funded agencies that deal with elder abuse and elder issues. But like any government-funded community resource, the funding ebbs and flows. So it's hard to find a consistent place to say you can go here and you can get fixed up.
I can just see a situation where, for example, somebody is developing dementia, and while they're still of sound mind, they grant a power of attorney. If they don't grant it to the right person or someone breaks that trust, I mean, they could be no longer knowing what's going on, the elderly person, and yet for a number of years had all their money taken out of the estate.
That's exactly right. And this is when in Queensland it's called the Public Guardian or the Adult Guardian. It's a government organisation which looks after people without capacity. And this affects all different ages.
Right.
Young children, people under the age of 18, can go to the public guardian and they can make some investigations. But once again, they're very short-staffed. It can take 6 to 12 months for an investigation to be instigated. And even when there's no criminal consequences for these people stealing the money, and that's why that statement that you mentioned in your introduction, they are licenses to steal because they have the power to sell your house, take all your money, and really face no consequences at this stage.
Well, in New South Wales, we also have a public guardian, so I presume it would play a similar role in those sorts of cases.
Yeah.
Is the message there also, while we are fully capable and alert, to think through very carefully who we would grant a power of attorney to?
It's essential that people are well educated on, firstly, what the power is, and it's effectively the power to become you. Yeah. They can do everything that you can do. They can open and close your accounts. Like I said, they can sell your house. They can do absolutely everything. So to appoint someone to be your attorney is one of the biggest decisions that you're probably going to have to make. And a lot of people do choose family members out of some loyalty, but not all family members are capable of conducting the affairs of their elderly parents.
I mean, apart from the fact that there are unethical people on this planet and those that would prey on their own parents, as difficult as that is to understand, there's also the level of capability. Not many people are just not good at financial planning, for example.
Exactly, and there are professional places that you can go. There's private trustees that you can appoint to manage your affairs, and it's worthwhile looking into that. And I'd certainly urge anyone who is considering appointing someone as their attorney that they make proper inquiries of them and that they do consult a solicitor in regards to having a full explanation and a full understanding of what it is. Unfortunately, we find that they're easily obtained over the internet. They're taken, an elderly person is taken to a shopping centre or somewhere where a justice of the peace witnesses the document. The justice of the peace, in some instances, and there are many good ones, but they don't understand the variations of capacity and possibly execute a document for someone who's not able to do so.
Yeah, well, I can understand that happening as well. Also, do you think, Kristy, that you come across people who are effectively stealing from their parents or an elderly person, and yet they form some type of bizarre, skewed rationale that they don't think it's wrong?
Many people that have come spoken to me, and the parents have said, they feel that they deserve it. And this particularly comes into play when they're caring for their elderly parents, in that they receive a government Commonwealth-funded carers pension, but that's $300 or $400 a week, and they think, I'm doing everything for mum or dad. I deserve this.
They can't take it with them. There's a couple of $100,000 of assets, so what the heck?
Mum would have wanted me to go to Las Vegas, or mum would have wanted me to go on that cruise, because I'm working so hard to care for her. So it's a culture of entitlement, unfortunately.
Yes.
These older people are sitting on assets. They may be asset rich, but they're cash poor, but the assets are worth in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, unencumbered, no mortgage.
Yes. Well, as you say, the age of entitlement is what we live in. I mean, some people just think if something's there, why shouldn't it be theirs?
Unfortunately, and with the internet banking and online access to money, I'm finding even more prevalent in that they just register for online banking and it's open slather on mum or dad's account. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about this today because it is an issue I think that's gone under the radar that if you're saying it's increasing, we need to talk about.
Absolutely. It increased 20% in Queensland last year. And
well, there you go.
A 20% increase in violent crime, everyone would be up in arms.
That's right.
But the silence is deafening.
20% increase in 1 year, and there's no reason to believe that wouldn't be across the board, not just in Queensland.
And unfortunately, we don't have national figures, and there's been many an inquiry and many a great recommendation, but at present they're all sitting on politicians' bookshelves, not really going anywhere. So really the purpose that I'm agitating for is to have someone take it on board and to really make this into a valid... It's a voting issue, and older people vote. That's
so true. Good on you, Kristy. Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Warren.
Kristy Mackie, the chair of the Queensland Law Society Elderly Law Committee. 20% increase, she said, in 1 year of elderly people being preyed upon, often by their children, believe it or not, and having their money stolen And I say it is stolen, even though legally that might not be the case. Ethically it is. While